All right, it's 6:30 p.m. Thank you all for joining in for the MSJ Reflections from the class of 2026. Welcome to all mission families. We're so glad to have you here tonight. And we're so glad to have our panelists, class of 2026 Mission San Jose High School students, as well as our moderator, Shilpa Vishwanathan. I'm Anusha Vaidyanathan. I'm president of Mission Possible PFA. And this is the fourth year that we are doing this MSJ Reflections. And here's how we started a little about the background of why we're doing this. MSJ Reflections, well, it was not called MSJ Reflections, it was just a random webinar that we started back in 2023. MPPFA started that with a simple idea that, we have a lot of information, especially from those graduating who actually lived through 4 years at Mission San Jose. While there is a lot of information, especially in recent years with AI and information overload, advice is everywhere. And there are several counselors, even the external college counselors, that will tell you a lot of things. But not all information is current or relevant to your student. So even though parents who had children graduate out of Mission San Jose maybe a few years before, things change year over year. And there is a lot of wealth of unwritten tribal knowledge that only this year's seniors truly hold. So this knowledge is goldmine, and this is exactly what we wanted to share, and that's why we created this panel. Year one in 2023, when we started, it was just a panel of three MPPFA parents just talking about their journey. And then year two was followed by another parent panel. Year three in 2025, we had for the first time a mix of both students as well as parents of graduating seniors last year. So that was very well. It had a good thing, and then rapid fire questions. It was an instant hit. And this year, year four, we now have seven panelists, our most diverse all student panel ever. And for the first time, we have full consent to record this webinar and then share it with everybody because we believe that this wisdom deserves to live on. And we do want to listen to your feedback. So there is a poll at the very end. With regard to housekeeping, chat is disabled for this webinar. So please use the Q&A feature for your questions if you have. You may be able to see others' questions. You can upvote if you see the same question being asked by somebody else already. The Q&A will follow our prepared panel questions because we do have a very large panel, a very diverse panel tonight. And with that, let me introduce or pass the baton to our moderator, Shilpa Vishwanathan, who's also a parent of Mission San Jose and a member of MPPFA. So Shilpa, over to you.
Thank you, Anusha. Let's jump right into it. So as Anusha said, we have a very diverse panel this year, and there are seven students who will be sharing their unique perspectives about their journey at Mission High through the 4 years. So our first panelist here, student panelist, is Roland Lee. What we are going to do this year is, for each of the panelists, we have, a slide that basically outlines and gives an overview of their academic journey, any extracurriculars and awards that they got. And, we won't go through each thing in the slide, but as you digest the slide or consume the slide, I will be asking each panelist a few questions that are very specific to their profile or highlights their profile, so to speak. So, Roland, my first question to you is, you balanced intense STEM coursework like multivariable calculus and physics 140 with creative classes like ceramics and AP Spanish. What made you choose the non-STEM courses that you did?
Yeah, so my thought process was not very complicated. In terms of AP Spanish, I originally came into Mission, thought I would end at Spanish 3, but I really loved Spanish and the teacher was super supportive, super fun. So I went on to AP Spanish and I'm actually president of Spanish Honor Society. I've competed in the National Spanish exam. So in that case, it was just I really found a passion for Spanish. In terms of ceramics, I actually joined to make gifts. So coming into senior year, I knew that by the end of the year, I would want to show gratitude for everyone who supported me. And so I chose ceramics. And Alice, I have an example to show, and I want you to look away from the camera because this gift is for you. So I made a gift for Alice over here, and that would not have been possible without taking ceramics. So thought process was pretty simple. Alice, you can look back. And I think even though my thought process was pretty simple, it mirrors my value that there always has to be a balance, and to just not overthink things.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. I mean, this is something that a lot of students and parents at MSJ struggle with, right? Like trying to load your coursework with difficult classes and, probably deprioritizing classes that you have an affinity towards or enjoy. So, kudos to you for going that route. Roland, my second question to you is, given your involvement in everything from FTC robotics to wrestling, when did you realize engineering was the path you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, so there is a resource hall on campus that surprisingly not too many students know of, and even fewer use, and that's the makerspace. So we do get some funding for our makerspace, 3D printers, laser cutters, and such. And I started using that in my sophomore year, and I really, really enjoyed the design process and creation. And I think that's really when I started leaning very heavily into engineering.
Who told you about Makerspace? How did you
Uh,
find it?
Yeah, that was my friend Alex. He's at SGSU right now, and he's the one who introduced me to it. There is a class that you can take that's dedicated solely to the makerspace. It's called like Intro to Engineering, I believe. I personally didn't take it, but the makerspace is open to everyone. I have a very strong connection with the teacher because he was my wrestling coach, and so that's how it got started.
Great to hear. Thank you, Roland. We'll come back to you. We're going to move on to Alice. Alice, you've been an editor, writer, musician, model UN leader, and student leader. It isn't a surprise that you chose journalism as your major, just looking at your, academic coursework. But you were also on the double accelerated math track, right? And you've listed calculus as one of your favorite classes. So how did you decide between your love for writing and math?
Right. So I think some background about me is that I'm a person who has always loved like writing about like history, writing just in general, creative writing, poetry. If you look down, I've actually put in my like thing that I attended the California State Summer School of the Arts for the creative writing department this past summer. So I mean that was like always been my passion. But I think coming into high school, I had got up in this mentality that like this wasn't a path really that anyone should pursue or that I could pursue. And so in that case, I kind of just took all the hard STEM classes that Mission offered. So you can see there's like I took like 3 AP sciences in my time here at Mission. It wasn't really until I feel 10th or 11th grade when I joined journalism, when I became a lot more involved with Model UN, when I found this community of other humanity centric people, that I began to believe, wow, this really is something that I can pursue my passions through. And I think one of the things that is so great about Mission is that it allows you to form or find people who are so incredibly talented and so incredibly dedicated. I think part of my reason of like me taking the double accelerated path is just because I started it at first because that's what everybody else is doing. But I think it wasn't until junior year when I took AP Calculus BC where I met like a very dedicated teacher. I met very like dedicated friends, and I'm still like great friends with the my table group in AP Calculus BC, and that's kind of why I put it in my favorite classes. So I guess like the whole point of this spiel is that I think the best thing about Mission is the community and the friends you find along the way, and that's really what I found through both math and these other clubs that I was a part of.
That's great to hear. So in your mind, then it sounds like you always knew that you were going to go down the writing or the journalism path. You managed to keep your interest in STEM alive, of course, right, through the rigorous coursework. But it sounds like in your mind, you already knew you wanted to go towards writing based on everything that you did. Okay. My second question for you is, why did you choose Brown specifically?
I think this kind of leads in from the last my answer to the last question. I think in AP Calculus BC, that's well, um, I think this is a question later on, but Miss Yulia Rusu, who was my teacher for AP Calculus BC, she's just such a dedicated teacher, and I think that's when I started realizing, oh, math actually makes sense, and I actually, I don't hate math as much as, or dislike math as much as I thought I used to. So I think that kind of passion drove me to, when I was applying, looking at college, like making my college list over the summer and junior year, to apply early decision to Brown University. So the cool thing about Brown is that we have this thing, very unique thing called an open curriculum, where that basically means that we don't have really course prerequisites like other colleges have a core curriculum. Like you, every single year you need to do at least complete at least like 2 history classes and 2 math classes and 2 science classes or something like that. Brown instead just lets you take whatever courses you want as long as you take finish taking all of the courses required of your major. So I think in that it gives you a lot of academic freedom to pursue all of the things you're interested in. And I think just choosing Brown is like kind of allowing me to fulfill my interdisciplinary dreams in a very studious environment.
And congratulations to you. It's not an easy school to get into, so congratulations. Okay, we'll move on to Ashwin. Ashwin has a very different path than the first couple of students that we heard from. So, Ashwin, you've worked with city government, political campaigns, and even spoken at school board meetings on behalf of students. You were on the surf board as well. Which one of these experiences made you realize politics and public policy could become your career?
Thank you for the question. I would say it's a little hard to pinpoint one specific experience that made me realize that politics and public policy could be a career for me. My first interest in politics came from elections like 2016 and 2020 at a young age. And my first real experience in local politics was in 2022 when I was doing some local campaign work. And so that was like door knocking and canvassing. And after that, I did a summer program at Georgetown University where I got to meet people who actually worked in politics. So, legislative aides, for example, lobbyists. We went to a think tank, an embassy. And so, in that one week, I got to see that, okay, this isn't just a hobby, this is something that people live their entire lives doing. And after that program, I became more involved in politics at school and locally. I did an internship with Mayor Raj Sawan, and I think I would say that's when I realized how much work there can be done even at the local level. And that's what made me do Surfboard. And speaking at board meetings, doing civics club, talking with the mayor, all of this kind of made me realize that this is like the right space for me. And I think I saw a question in Q&A about how did you find the passion for your major? I think the way you find your passion for your major is not by looking for a major to be passionate about, but just following what you're naturally interested in. If you have all the time in the world, what do you want to do? And for me, that was watching videos about history and politics and doing History Bowl and doing political science research. And so, since those interests, I kind of gravitate towards those interests, that eventually became my college path and hopefully my career path.
That's great to hear, Arfan. You also have a lot of extracurricular activities in the public policy or the political area, including winning gold and silver medal awards for History Bowl, being on Model UN, Civics Club co-founder, and then obviously being on the surfboard as well. You chose to go to American University. Tell us why you specifically chose American University.
So I chose American University for many reasons. First of all, it's one of the best universities for public policy. It's ranked number 9 in the country for public affairs. It's right in the middle of Washington, D.C., so it's like 10 minutes from the White House and 10 minutes from the Capitol. So it's also got a very strong internship program where you can get credit for doing internships, and that's kind of rare in a lot of colleges. Even a lot of other colleges, they let you do internships, but American gives you course credit for doing internships. So for my major and my program, something like a third to half of my credits will end up coming from internships. Now, another reason I chose American was because they offered me a very, very generous package. It was tens of thousands in merit aid. This is something that you don't get told a lot in advice generally, but rather than just trying to find the college students with the highest rankings, you want to find a college that will literally cut your costs so that you will attend for them. And even if you don't qualify for financial aid, you can get a lot of money in merit aid from some colleges just based on your interests and your academics. And the PPL program that I was specifically admitted to, it's Politics, Policy, and Law Scholars. It allows me to graduate in 3 years, and it has very strong placements into top law schools across the country, as well as strong placements in the political internships themselves. A lot of the people in the program have been working for senators and congress people and state legislators. Some of them have even ran for office right after the program. And so I think looking for a program that you're interested in at a college you're interested in over just like surfing the US news rankings, I think that is really what helps you find the right college for you.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Ashwin. We'll move on to our next panelist, Ghanem. Um, Ghanem has a very different path than most students at Mission High. Ghanem, your path is very hands-on and career-focused through ROP law enforcement courses and 200 plus service hours with the Newark Police Department. It is not a typical path for a student at Mission San Jose High. What made you choose the path you did?
Yeah, so I first started off my junior year. I kind of saw the ROP course list, and I had actually seen it my sophomore year for the law enforcement class, and I've always kind of felt, a call for service. I've really liked the idea of law enforcement, just helping people. So I decided my junior year I was gonna take the class, and I did. I really liked it. You know, I started off from a leadership position in that class, becoming we have squads in the class. I started off as a squad leader in there, so that kind of gave me a good stepping stone into leadership positions. And then I would say about 3 months into the class, I joined the Newark Police Department, and I mean I've just been growing from there within. I became a sergeant about 9 months ago, and so I'm a big part of heading our cadets program. So I help out a lot when it comes to that, when it comes to teaching the youth academies, when we do those types of things. And I mean, yeah, just kind of the more and more I keep working there, the more I just want to do it. I've always really liked the idea of helping people. We do a lot of either traffic control events when Newark has a lot of little parades that go on. So we make sure all the crowds and everybody's staying safe throughout the crowds. We do a lot of community engagement. So I mean, just talking to the youth, talking to little kids, giving out stickers, they like that a lot. And just, I mean, whilst doing all that, making sure everything's staying within order, staying within safe, people are where they're supposed to be, and everybody's having fun. And I feel like that's just a really big part that I like about being with the Newark Police Department.
That's awesome. It sounds like you found your passion and you chose to follow it. So that's great to hear. In a school, though, where the vast majority of students are STEM focused, did you feel any peer pressure? And if yes, how did you cope with it?
To be honest, I really did not. You know, I know going into this career and everything and in this school, it's a really foreign idea to a lot of people, but that didn't really change kind of what I wanted to do or how I felt about it because I've had a really strong passion for it. I know what I'm doing and I like what I'm doing. And I have a lot of belief in the idea and what goes in to what I'm doing. I know that there's the people getting genuinely helped out there from our work and just from everything we do. So I never, that's just my kind of, personality. I don't feel any peer pressure, but I feel like even if I were to have, it wouldn't have pushed me away from my career path.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Ganam.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to Arvind, our next panelist. Arvind, you have placed in the top 125 nationally for the US Biology Olympiad, which is an incredible achievement. Um, for students trying to break into highly competitive national science competitions, what does the preparation for that look like? Were there any setbacks? And if yes, how did you handle them?
Yeah, thank you. The main thing with all of these national science competitions is to first like learn the basics and learn them well. And so usually that's just like having a consistent study schedule, like putting in an hour around every day to learn the basics. For biology specifically, there's a main book. It's like Campbell's Biology. Biggest thing is to just read that book and make sure that you're introduced into biology. For me personally, biggest setbacks I had were that I wasn't really studying efficiently. And so what I mean by that is I was reading through the book really fast and then I didn't really understand what was going on. And so the biggest thing I would say is to slow down and make sure you actually understand what you're reading. And then results will just come if you stay consistent.
Great to hear. So you also were on the double accelerated math track. You've taken 4 years of orchestra, so obviously you have very strong affinity towards music as well. Um, when was it that specifically made you feel like biology is, what is going to do it for you, right? Like out of all your science competitions, volunteer experience, or class, when did you realize that you wanted to choose biology as a major?
I've always been really fascinated by biology. Like I grew up watching shows like Wildcrafts, like animal shows, and I always knew I wanted to do something like that. My first exposure to what biology was really like was in middle school and in like beginning of high school with competitions like Science Bowl and USA BO. And these kind of competitions, like Science Bowl specifically, it made biology almost like a game. And then like afterwards, I really wanted to study and get better at the subject. And the more and more I studied, like by junior year, I knew that I really enjoyed this subject. Like I enjoyed learning this subject. And from there, I just knew that I wanted to do this in college.
Thank you, Arvind. Okay, we'll move on to our next panelist, Kevin. So Kevin is an elite mathematician, right? So Kevin, you have qualified for USAMO, USAJMO, which are national math competitions. You're in the top 1% of AIME. You also have a lot of extracurriculars in politics, having interned for a mayor and doing research on ranked choice voting. How did you connect your interest in math, engineering with your interest in politics?
I think at first I loved math because it was kind of endless. Every problem I solved kind of led to another question, and rather than just purely solving for answers, I kind of like started focusing more on the questions, like wondering why something worked, if there was a more elegant solutions, and what happens if I change some constrictions or variables, right? And that curiosity kind of pulled me deeper into math. Through like I guess new ideas such as tropical algebra or geometry, and also tangents to math, such as like machine learning or data science. At the same time, I was also pretty interested inside of civics and politics. And after interning for the mayor and also doing some research, I started to realize that there were a lot of political problems that are like systematic, right? And I guess things like voter disenfranchisement or low voter turnout rates transcended like mere moral or political issues, but also involved a lot of data, right? Data including geography, incentives, and access to voting. So I started, I guess, using math and engineering to kind of make these problems visible and also try to solve them. And one project, the one I'm most proud about, was where I used machine learning and also mathematical models to kind of, I guess, model voter prediction heat maps for candidates running for office inside of the 2024 secondary election. And for me, math kind of served as a tool to understand society almost, and also allowed me to like apply my theoretical knowledge into something more palpable. Yeah.
That's great. And I see that you've picked that's a double major, right? Or is it a triple major? Mechanical engineering plus applied math plus.
Uh, I was gonna I was gonna double major and a minor.
Okay, okay, awesome. So, Kevin, you're very accomplished. You've excelled academically, clearly, but you've also been a varsity swimmer for 3 years, right? Which is also a very big commitment here. Anyone here, any of the parents here who have a child that plays sports for school knows the time commitment. Tell us what sports or athletics taught you that academics alone could not.
Um, So I guess the traditional answer would be, I guess, swimming and all, I guess all sports teach you discipline and resilience. But for me, I think the biggest thing or lesson that it taught me was, I guess, how to tolerate failure. Because in academics, especially in math, I was used to feeling like if I work hard for this test and I study hard, I will improve and also get good scores on a test. But swimming kind of made me realize that
progress is not always linear. Like for example, sometimes I would train 3 months and go on a diet, right? And just fully commit myself to swimming, but and be fully prepared for a swim meet. But then instead of improving, I would actually like retrogress instead of progress. And it was really frustrating because I knew I put in the work and the effort, but over time I kind of learned that improvement is kind of more oscillatory, and that if you keep trying and you keep studying and you keep practicing, there's always gonna be an upward trend. But I feel like that upward trend is kind of oscillatory in that um, there's going to be dips along the way, and one bad race doesn't mean that your training was pointless. Just like one setback in school or life does not erase the progress you made before that. So athletics has taught me to kind of like sit with disappointment and accept it, and then like improve without like one failure like defining me. And that's something academics I feel like couldn't really truly teach me.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. Okay, we'll move on to our next panelist. So our next panelist has chosen a very mainstream major, but she's also made a very non-mainstream choice when it comes to deciding where to go to college. So Shaina, committing to an institution like West Point is an incredibly honorable and unique college choice compared to a traditional university. Tell us what inspired you to pursue both military service and cybersecurity together.
Yeah, so it kind of started off when I was like little. My dad would tell me stories and everything, and not until like later in high school did I finally realize what West Point was. Um, but I knew that I didn't want to just challenge myself like academically, even though I did apply to like normal colleges and civilian colleges. I wanted to also challenge myself like physically, but also like mentally. And I think West Point or any like military academy kind of incorporates all of those factors. So when I was really young, it was always like my dream school, like that's where I wanted to go. But then CS specifically or cybersecurity was something I found out I wanted to do only in high school. Specifically with like my interest in my internship that I did, that sort of solidified my interest in cybersecurity. I was a data scientist intern, so I had a lot of like I had my own capstone project and things like that, and that's when I decided I wanted to do cybersecurity in at West Point. And so I wanted to be part of something a lot greater than myself, and that's another reason why I wanted to be at West Point. Um, Also, West Point makes you a lot better, like it makes you a really nice, like better leader. And so when I graduate after my 4 years of undergrad at West Point, I would be a second lieutenant. And then after my 5 years of active duty, I would end up as a major. And so I feel like I would become the greatest version of myself at West Point. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go.
Yeah, a very honorable choice, and we're incredibly proud of you. It is not a choice that a lot of students at Mission San Jose make. So, we have no doubt you'll go on to do great things there. Good luck to you in that choice. Um, Another question I have for you is you've balanced leadership in Girl Scouts, varsity basketball, internships, and tech projects like building a chatbot. Which experience do you think has prepared you the most for the discipline and teamwork that is expected at West Point?
Yeah, so like I kind of said before, the West Point application process in general incorporates a lot of different factors, and a lot of different things are taken into account. And so I did basketball for 13 years of my life, and so I think that sort of prepared me in terms of the physical aspect, and I learned to be part of a team. I was part of many different th teams over those 13 years, and I think that really prepared me because West Point's not just it's not just me. It's a big team thing, and you learn to be a leader at the end of your 4 years. And so with academics, I went to mission, so I think that prepared me as well. So all of these experiences throughout high school kind of prepared me for all the challenges I'll experience at West Point. And like I said before, basketball was a highlight of my 4 years in high school. So um I think all these factors kind of play a role to shape who I am today.
Yeah, so it sounds like, your overall experience, right, from both academic, sports, all of that contributed to your decision. So thank you for that, China. So those are our 7 panelists that we have today. Anusha, at this point, we could open it up to audience questions if you want.
There have been some upvotes. Let's start with the top question from anonymous attendee. Is there any advice to improve GPA? I currently have a few C's in 8th grade and would like your input for incoming 9th grade. Anyone who wants to answer this?
I think you should talk to your teachers. I think at the end of the day at Mission, not a lot of your teachers like they don't want you to fail, they want you to succeed. And so I think if you really talk to them, like go to office hours, they'll really help you out with your courses. And um, my advice is to balance out your course load throughout your 4 years in high school. I think it's better to take easier courses and do well and like exceed in them than take super hard, like rigorous classes and then do bad in them. I think that's a really good way to make sure your GPA is good.
Thank you.
I
The
think there's
next,
also a general test taking strategy. If there's a question that's really not clicking to you, just move on to the next one. I think a lot of tests will come down to time, and if you're spending too much time on a question you're not going to get, of course, you're not going to do as well as you could.
all right. Any other inputs on improving your grades?
Yeah, I'd like to add, like, if you're missing a lot of questions on tests and like just in general, it's good to know why your grades are so low. Like, if you're making a lot of conceptual errors, like, are you underprepared? Do you need like extra help? In which case, you can go talk to your teachers. Or you make. It's also important to know if you're like making a lot of silly mistakes. It's like, are you getting enough sleep? Like, are you in your best state when you're going into a test? And so it's important to know why your grades are dropping if they are.
Cool. Thank you. Next question is, what are some of the extracurriculars that you took out of school? I know you mentioned that in your slides, but maybe some of you can talk about what do you think? I know would have made a difference in the college admission process. What is if anybody wants to take that from all the things that you did?
Okay, so I think like going into the college admissions process, I was very like scared because I saw like a lot of the profiles that I saw like online that were getting into these like very competitive colleges had a lot of stuff outside of school, like like NASA intern or like they have published research papers. And if you look at the list of extracurriculars that I did in high school, it was very much like school focused. Like my 2 biggest things I feel like on my application were that I was the president of Model UN and I was the editor in chief of the Smoke Signal, which is our school newspaper. But I feel like ultimately what I've learned throughout the college admissions process is that it's more about like the depth of your activities than the like how many of them you do. Like I'm sure like a lot of my friends that also only did like for example school clubs ended up also going to very good schools because they had meaningful impact on those clubs. So for example, like on my essays I would just talk about what changes I made to Model UN or like what quantifiable things that changed because I was like a leader or president for 2 years. So for example, like the attendance rate quadrupled, or like our awards rate was really good, or like we won this like national award in New York as a result of like my efforts through like creating more club meetings or something like that. So I think it's just really important to really care about what you do and ensure that like you make it like an impact on the organizations that you're a part of.
Cool. Thank you, Alice. Anyone else for the extracurricular that you think has made a difference?
I agree with Alice. In that in my high school career, I spent a lot of my time doing competitions, and at the end, I started trying to bring more impact. So obviously, you have the competitions. Like I'm pretty sure all of you guys know about AMC and like Efigos MA and all that stuff. And I spent like countless hours practicing problems and doing that. I did get results, but honestly, those type of awards, they're good, but you can't really write about them. And like Alice said, the things you can write about are, I guess, the changes that you bring, right? In her case, she was talking about clubs, like what she did for clubs and how she improved them, right? But then you can also bring positive change to society as well, right? like for what I did was I guess I helped improve voter turnout in specific areas, right? Another thing you could do, like if you're on the med track or something, like you can volunteer at like hospitals and whatnot, right? And like I guess, there's a lot of possibilities, and I guess bringing impact is one of the biggest things I would say you should try and do for extracurricular activities.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else?
I would say for your extracurriculars, I think you should do extracurriculars you're actually interested in. That should be your primary focus. If you're not interested in an extracurricular, you're not going to do well in it, and it's not going to be impressive to anyone, including colleges, and you're just going to waste your time. If you actually like an extracurricular, you'll find a way to make it valuable, make it stand out in an essay. So I think, and I don't like to use the word passion, but I think if you're interested in an extracurricular, then you should do it. And if you're not interested, then you shouldn't do it. Because if you are interested in it, you'll find a way to make it work.
Thank you, Ashwin. Any other specific, do you want to talk about any specific advice, anything that you did?
Are you asking me or everyone?
Anyone, yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to go? No, because the question was, what was the extracurricular that you took out of school that helped you in the school, in the college admission process, which you think would have helped in your college admission process?
I think what colleges really like to see is commitment, or at least since I'm going to West Point, an academy likes to see commitment and like that sort of thing. And so for me that was basketball.
Mm.
I in my college application, like while I was filling out the application, something that I did mention a lot throughout each college application was that I did basketball for 13 years of my life. And so I think that kind of shows them that you're like consistent and everything like that.
Thank you, Shana. Anyone else? Any specific inputs? If not, we'll move on to the next question. The school has a reputation for being extremely rigorous and stressful. Did you personally feel that way, or why do you think the school has that reputation? I think there's an upvote on that question. And one more ask of, can someone please help answer this question?
Yeah, so sometimes I go places like, for example, I was volunteering at Washington Hospital last year, and they were asking like, oh, like what school do you go to? And I said Mission San Jose, and then they started looking at me weird. And these are like students that are going to like American and like Irvington. I'm like confused why these guys are looking at me like I'm alien. Mission definitely has a reputation for a stress culture, um, and I think the stress is still there. But I think a little stress is still fine. And this stress culture does mainly come from, unfortunately, families and peers. So I would recommend, like, if you're a parent, um, please try to support your kid in the effort they put in and not always like the results, because some results are out of hand. And if your child is so focused on getting that A, well, unfortunately, they lose a lot of that intrinsic motivation.
I want to second the point that Roland just said about how it really comes from like your peers and your family. I thought like the stress culture was kind of prevalent just through because like the people I surrounded myself with were all like I wrote about this in the smoke signal once, but they were all very like STEM focused. They were all like taking all these super hard STEM classes. So naturally, I wanted to also like kind of do what they were doing, and so that's why I kind of felt pressure to take them. Although I will say it ended up kind of working out because I kind of adjusted to it. But I think I would also like to say like it's more about the effort that these students are putting in because it's like about what I think mission teaches you very well is how to handle like rigor and like how to handle stress. And I think like as long as your kid is like learning that, it doesn't really matter like what courses they're taking or like how good their grade is. As long as they're like learning the good study habits or like how to balance their time correctly. That's more important.
Cool. Thank you. And I think to add, your profile also talks about that, right? You don't have to, for instance, finish the path of double accelerated, or finish the path of, say, English honors. I know some of you dropped English honors after, say, ninth or 10th, or did not do multivariable calculus, which is the last in the pathway for the accelerated math. So does anybody want to illustrate that point? Because that also adds to the stress, right? And to tie to the other question on how do you drop down a pathway or drop a class, step down, so that you don't get bad grades. Does anybody want to talk about your rationale for, dropping down a particular honors pathway or something?
I can talk about why I kind of dropped science after 11th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So, I struggled a lot in freshman year biology, and I did well in sophomore year chemistry. So I did AP chemistry in junior year. And that was a class I actually kind of enjoyed. And I'm not a STEM kid in the slightest, but I did kind of enjoy that class. But it was also extremely hard for me. Just studying chemistry was hard. Doing the were pretty hard. Even the homeworks that were taking people like 20 minutes were taking me 40 minutes to do. So I really I soldiered through it. I got an A one semester, a B the other semester. I still did fine in the class. I got a four on the AP. But after that, I was like, okay, I cannot do more science. I want to focus on what actually I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be doing physics or biology in my career, so I'm going to drop it. Similar story with language, where I dropped it after 3 years and after a particularly hard Spanish three. So I think once a class, you have to do the cost benefit analysis. Once the class is costing you more in your mental health, in like your burnout, than it's actually benefiting you, there's no shame in dropping it. Nobody's gonna judge you for it. In fact, it is probably better for you to drop a class that you're not enjoying, that you're not doing well in. If you're enjoying it but you're not doing super well in it, then you have to like lock in and put some effort in. And if you're not enjoying but still doing well, I'd say just stick the course. But if you're not enjoying it and not doing well, it's time to drop down. There's no reason to fuel your ego with bees.
I want to appreciate you sharing that perspective, Ashwin, because that I think that decision to recognize, or that self-awareness that you had, that I'm not going to be doing this the rest of my life. I don't see any point in me struggling through this, right? When I'm, like you said, not interested, not passionate about it. And having that self-awareness then to, make that decision to, switch your coursework. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of students and parents at Mission struggle with that, right? They start on a path, and then stepping down is, unfortunately sometimes perceived as a failure when it's not.
Yeah.
You're choosing to do things that align better with your aptitude and your
Yes.
interest. So I think that's a very good message for this community to receive.
Yeah. This whole thing is a war, not a battle. So you have to pick your battles correctly. You're not trying to fight every single class, fight for every single A, fight for every single five. Just pick your battles wisely and pick what you'll actually do for the rest of your life.
Thank you, Ashwin. Anyone else wants to chime in on a particular pathway, say English or?
Yeah, okay, I know I've been talking a lot, but I just wanted to briefly explain. I know I put like AP Calc BC as my like favorite class here at MSJ, but I'm not actually taking multivariable calculus or linear algebra, which is like the highest math class you can take at Mission. I think like Roland, Kevin, and Arvind are taking it currently, but for me, since I was I'm right now taking AP Statistics, which is already like another math class, and also I'm taking AP Physics 1. And I assumed that I would be writing essays throughout my whole first semester. I really thought it was more worth it to conserve my time and like not try to study for both physics and multilinear algebra, but to rather just like study for physics maybe and then just focus on my essays. So for, like Ashwin said, it was more worth it like time wise for me just to not take multivar.
Thank you, Alice. I'm going to move on to other questions. Any suggestions or recommendations for the best summer programs that you've taken? Maybe you can go round robin and each of you talk about. I think some of you talked about the summer program, but maybe we can highlight that. Recommendations on best summer programs that you believe you have taken.
No, it's not. It's not out, Ashwin. It'll come after Q&A.
I can go,
Uh,
yeah. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, so I took the Berkeley ATDP program, and I enjoyed it because I think I got to go to Berkeley and actually like do something like hands-on. It wasn't all online. And so I definitely did enjoy that. but I don't think that it was the most useful for me because ATDP, like Mission doesn't give you credit for it. You can just write that in your college application, I guess. And so I don't think it was the most useful for me. But then since I went to West Point, I also applied for the SLE program, and that's also over summer, and it basically shows you like a week into like what life is like at the academy. So yeah.
Thank you, Shaina. Any other summer programs anyone wants to share?
I only looked into free summer programs, and I've only done one summer program, but it was really phenomenal. At SJSU, they have a summer program called MISTA, MISTA, Minetta Summer Transportation Academy. Completely free. They give you course credit and they give you a bunch of field trips, and I think that's really helpful, especially if you're still looking into what career you want to pursue.
Thank you, Roland.
Ashwin, I thought I heard you say you did a summer program at Georgetown. You want to?
Yeah, I did. So the summer program I did two actually. I did one freshman year, one sophomore year. The second one was the more important one. That was American Politics Academy. That one was important because you get to actually meet professionals in the field. So, like I said, legislative aides, lobbyists, think tank employees, those kind of people. And you got to obviously meet the Georgetown political science professors. So I think those kind of summer programs are good because you get to actually meet people in those fields and see what they're working on, see what the day in the life kind of is, while also learning theory. Because I think rather than just trying to learn like how the government works through some online class, you want to actually see what the people who make the government work are actually doing in their day-to-day lives. And I think that's transferable across fields. I can't really speak about the other fields, but I'm sure the others can.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, Alice and I went to the UPenn data science camp at Wharton, and general for summer programs, you have like the top tier, the top echelon of like summer programs, such as like I'd say sumac or whatnot, right? And those are like really hard to get into, and if you can get into them, you're probably going to get into like a really, really good college. But for the majority of people, it's practically it's almost impossible to get into. And so I'd say if you can get into those, good for you. But if you can't, I think summer programs give you an opportunity to like explore new things. Like for example, when Alice and I went to the Wharton data science program, none of us had really done data science before, but going through it, me personally, I found it really intriguing, right? Like using data science and machine learning models in order to like conduct research and also like bring impact. And that's kind of like what catalyzed my research and also like heat maps and whatnot and for voter turnout. And that was my like essentially my main passion project. So essentially just like try to take every single opportunity you can get, especially in the summer when I guess you have so much free time to explore new things. And I think that's what's important in finding a summer program.
Just to like add on to that, I think Wharton, I did Wharton in like the 10th grade summer. I feel like for me personally, I didn't really want to do data science after I did that program. In 11th grade summer, like basically last summer, I did this summer program that I just mentioned in one of the answers to one of the questions was the California State Summer School of the Arts, which I think if you guys have heard of like Cosmos, which is also like a state funded STEM program, it's like the arts equivalent of that. So there's like a bunch of different departments that are like music, dance, creative writing, which I went to, and then like visual arts, things like that. What was very useful for me going there was just finding other like-minded people who are into writing, and I'm like still some of my like very good friends were made through that program. But also, I think something that was very important for me, um, going to that summer program specifically, is that I found a very close bond with my poetry teacher there, and he actually wrote me one of my letters of recs for college. So I think like if you are able to kind of form a close bond with one of your professors there, that will lend you like both credibility and like if you do well in the classes or if you're very outspoken, they can also talk to how like more specifically how much you are interested in like the thing that you're trying to major in or like how you participate in class when it comes to like classes that are more similar to the classes you'll take in college rather than just like a more general English class that everyone is forced to take admission.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to what Kevin said. There are like summer programs at like all levels. Like even if you can't get into the big ones like Cosmos, there are like still a lot of summer programs you can do. So one of the ones I did for biology was called the Rosetta Institute, and it was a molecular biology summer program. And it's not like as big or as nice as the like top. It was still a great opportunity to get to learn a lot of biology and learn about current research going on in like fields like cancer. And I think it's really important to just like look and make sure that you actually like apply for a lot and then just make sure to like take every opportunity you can to like learn about whatever field you want to go into.
Thank you, Arvind. I think I'll move on to more general questions that benefit
Sure.
all. Anyone
Right.
else?
There's a specific question for Ashwin about his contribution to Surfboard. I think it might be valuable, Ashwin, for you just to explain
Hmm.
to this community what Surfboard is, how you ended up being on it, and what the surfboard really does.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question because not a lot of people know what it is. Surfboard stands for Students United for Representation to the Fremont Board of Education. So basically, three students are chosen from each high school and one from each middle school to act as representatives for the school to the Board of Education. So we often attend those board meetings and speak at them. The biggest push we've been doing this year was with the Bell schedule, where they got rid of advisory and they made finals only 2 days. And because of our work as well as work from others like NPPFA, we now have a 3 day final schedule again for next year. So like that, those kind of changes are the kind of things Surfboard works on. Additionally, I served on the district budget and finance committee, so we have all kinds of issues with the budget in our district, which I'm not going to get into here, but we meet roughly every few months, and I'm one of the student members for that committee. So Serve gives you valuable experience on district committees, going to board meetings, and doing events with district staff. It's kind of a good local government experience, and it's a very strong opportunity for anyone interested in political science. It's also very competitive and impressive on college apps.
Thank you, Ashwin.
All right. Did any of the panelists use a college counselor? Why and when? This is an external college counselor. Right?
Hey, I can go first. A college counselor the spring of my junior year, and they really helped me. Like, they helped review my essays. So I'm not good at writing that much. So it was really helpful to have someone that would review my essays for me and make sure that I was portraying myself in the best way possible to show colleges like who I was as a person and really portray myself. It's helpful for me because I feel like I really needed that extra help for college applications.
Yeah, I also agree. I think so I got a college counselor kind of late. I got it at the midway through junior year. But I think my college counselor really helped me out. They like sort of help you organize all of your activities. So you only get 10 activities in your common application that you can put down. And so they kind of help like strategize your application, help you choose the best major so you have the highest chance of getting into the like best college that you can. And so I think it was very helpful for me to get it. I think also if you do want to do summer programs and you don't know which one's best for you, a college counselor will definitely help you decide that early on as well.
All right, I think, okay, I just sorted the questions. Is hiring an independent college counselor worth it? I think it's a kind of a related question. Maybe someone else wants to talk.
I'll say it kind of depends on who you are and what your purpose is. So I actually had a college counselor from midway through ninth grade all the way to 12th grade. I will say a college counselor is not going to get you into the college you want. You have to get yourself into that college. But the college counselor will give you the confidence to make certain decisions that you otherwise wouldn't have taken. For example, in like mid ninth grade, I still saw politics, policy, those things as hobbies. I didn't know what my actual career path would be. And my parents also have like no experience in that field. They have a different field as. So if it wasn't for the college counselor basically giving us the confidence, I probably would have tried to cover my bases by doing STEM or CS or other things on the side as well, and I wouldn't have built a very like well, the word is spiky profile where it's like I have a lot of things in one subject and not in the others. The counselor kind of gave me the confidence for that, but in terms of like essays and grades and all the other stuff, it's all you. And like how much ever the counselor does is not going to change your outcome if you are. The counselor will give you the confidence to make decisions. The counselor's not going to make decisions for you.
Adding on
It
to what
seemed
Ashwin, okay.
you can go on, Kevin.
Adding on to what Ashwin had to say, I think when you do get a college counselor, since I got one since ninth grade, so they've kind of guided like what classes I've taken, what extracurriculars I've done the entire way. I think one thing you need to pay attention to is that college counselors are not infallible and that you kind of have to take everything they say with a grain of salt and that you can't just follow blindly what they have to say. Like I think midway, um, they kind of wanted me to focus a lot more on, I guess, writing and whatnot, and like they kept pressing it to me, and I started out doing it a little bit of it, but I didn't really like it, but they kept like pressing it on, and eventually I just like I didn't do any of it eventually, but like I guess what to keep in mind is like you still have to kind of follow your own heart and like what you want to do, because if you're just going to do something that your college counselor suggests you do but you don't actually like doing it, first of all it's kind of a waste of time because you don't like doing it, and second of all it's also a waste of time in that you're not going to really get any outcomes compared to like the other passionate people that are doing this specific subject and are willing to put more time and energy into it.
Cool. Thank you. I think let's move on. We talked maybe quickly. Did you take the SAT exam? If yes, how long do you study and the result? Maybe you can just go through it as a quick rapid fire, whoever wants to answer. This
I
is
can
about the
go.
SAT.
I did the Elite Prep summer like workshop that they had my junior year summer, and then I took the August SAT and I got a 1580.
I just did Khan Academy for like 30 minutes, maybe an hour max each day over the summer. Um, of between my sophomore and junior year. Khan Academy is really good. You can also have practice tests on Blue Book. I got a 1570.
I also use the Blue Book practice test. So on Blue Book, which is also the app that you're going to use when you take the SAT itself, there's like six, I think, full length practice tests that are basically like very similar to the questions that the College Board actually puts on the SAT. And so I just completed all of those. And then I took it the summer right before my junior year, and then I got a 1570 as well.
All right. Anyone else?
um I kind of just winged it because I took the ACT back, so I was just kind of like got a 1550, but like I mean I did practice with ACT in the past.
Okay. Name of the counselors each person used, if you want to share. All right.
I think there's a question for Shaina. Maybe Shaina, if you can quickly talk about, I think questions are, if you go to West Point, what is the involvement in military? Is that a military position? Do you need to serve 5 years? Like maybe just a quick overview on what is the commitment if you enroll at West Point.
Yeah, so I actually leave on June 26th. June 29th is our day. There's 6 weeks of cadet basic training, so um, that's sort of like hell weeks. Um, and then A Day is, I believe, August 8th, and then the following week you move into your barracks, and then you school starts. Then you have your 4 years at the academy, and I graduate as a second lieutenant. Um, and then after that, I have 5 years of active duty and 3 years of inactive reserve. By the time I'm done with my 5 years, I can be ranked as a major or higher, depending on like other factors, like how all of it works out, I guess. Um, and yeah, that's kind of an overview of like West Point, I guess, position, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Shanna.
All right. So I'm going by the most upvoted questions. So I just sorted them. The counselor question is most upvoted. I think we can take it if you don't want to share it now. Summer SAT is answered. Okay, let's talk about teachers. How do you handle teachers who do not explain when you go to them with a question in office hours, but ask you questions back? Okay, this is something like how do you deal with, you know, difficult teachers or office hours and question like that, things like that. How do you handle that? Who wants to talk about how they handled a difficult class or a difficult teacher or a tough subject?
I think that at Mission, teachers don't really want you to fail, like I said before, but there are definitely teachers who are kind of difficult to work with. And I think the best way to get around that, for me at least, was self-studying. And I know that's a very basic answer, but I feel like um, you kind of teach yourself the best in certain ways. And so I would use videos or like things like that if it's course specific. And if a teacher can't answer a question, there's always your peers because I feel like they always like all your friends will go through it like the same as you are. And so they have the same experience and they know the same things as you do, so they're a good like resource.
I think an inevitable experience that everyone will experience inside of, I guess, mission is that you're gonna feel wronged by a teacher, like at some point. Like the grading is wrong. They didn't give me enough points for my work, right? My essay was good, but why do they think it's trash and stuff like that? And I think the most important thing you need to remember when this happens is it's gonna be okay, and you should talk to the teacher about it because, like Shanna said, no teacher is trying to like fail you, right? They're trying to help you learn. And the thing is, every teacher has their own guidelines and they have their own, I guess, preferences, right? So you kind of have to ask the teacher, why did you deduct points here or there, even though I think it was correct? And then you kind of learn or adapt to the teacher as you go along the semester. And as you adapt to the teacher's grading and teaching style, then I think that's how you kind of get good grades. Because for me personally, like every single year, every single semester, I kind of started off with a C or a B because I didn't know, I guess, like how to deal with the projects or like tests or whatnot. But then I always ended up with an A. So I think the most important thing is you kind of gotta adapt and like learn from your mistakes instead of blaming somebody.
So, in that respect, somebody says stress is from teachers more than families. What would you say to that? And when you said that ask the teacher, you're asking the student to talk to the teacher directly, right, Kevin?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But did you still want me to answer that question
Yeah,
about the stress
yeah.
about the?
It's like a related question on the office
Oh
hours
yeah.
of teachers, but there are three votes on a question that says stress is from teachers more than families. What do you have to say for that?
Um, I always thought the stress that I had came from myself because rather than a teacher or my family because, well, my teachers, they want me to succeed, right? And also my family also wants me to succeed. And every time I've like not done well on a test or whatnot, the teachers have been really accepting and like and understanding, right? And they've helped me a lot and saved my family, right? They've never been like, oh, you gotta see, you're kind of bad, but like they've been like, okay, you do better next time. This is just a set down. This is very temporary. You can do better next time. But I think most of the stress comes from yourself and your expectations to always be getting A's and whatnot. And I think that's the problem in that like you can't always ace a test, right? You kind of have to have a threshold and like you gotta accept sometimes you're gonna fail or whatnot, and that relieves a lot of the stress, and it still allows you to perform well. But yeah, I think most of the stress comes from yourself and your expectations.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to talk about that difficult teachers plus the stress aspect, combining both questions?
I
But I think,
think. Oh,
Yeah.
you go
you go
ahead.
first. You go first. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a little thing I've kind of realized with difficult teachers, or just like if you're not doing too well in a class, is I feel like being straightforward with a teacher and being like really transparent with them seems to help a lot. Like if there's either a certain reason why you're not doing well, or I don't know, just anything you feel like is holding you back, or if you think they're holding you back from something, just be straightforward with them and let them know. And a lot of times you can work things out with them and it'll end up in your favor or something that works out well for both of you guys.
Thank you, Ganam. Anyone else on the stress aspect?
Yeah, I'd say for stress, it's not the teacher and it's not the parent who give you the most stress, it's you who gives yourself the most stress. And I know that sounds a little weird to say, but your parents are not trying to stress you. They're not your enemy here. Neither are your teachers, right? Your parents just want what's best for you, and your teachers want what's best for the entire class. The stress comes because you have your own expectations of how you should do, and if you fall short of that, then you get mad at yourself for that. And I think the key thing is to just I'm not gonna say lower your expectations, but be open to things happening out of your control. Yeah, maybe you're not gonna get the best the best grades in that class, or maybe you're gonna do a little worse on the SAT than you thought you would. But then you don't like cry over spilled milk. You try to go for other opportunities which actually will help you not just in college ads, but just in becoming a better person and becoming a better student, just in your career path in general. So yeah, I think the stress comes mostly from mismatched expectations rather than parental stress or teachers. And I think managing your expectations is the best way to manage stress.
Thank you. Anyone else thinks otherwise, that stress is outside of oneself in mission? Any other panelist?
I mean, I'm sure
Oh,
they'll mix together, like if I think this has already been touched on before. If
mm,
your, friends are like themselves like stressing out and they're already telling you like, oh my God, like I didn't get this something, I got this like grade and it's like a B, or like I didn't get this summer program, like you might internalize that stress yourself. And I think like um it's just a mix of things.
all right, cool. Thank you. I think we'll move on to other general questions. I'm skipping the specific ones, which maybe each panelist can answer live. You can use the chat if it's specifically directed to you. Meanwhile, let's move on to the general ones. How do you manage your time every day and juggle so many activities? Who wants to take that?
I would say the biggest thing is just being efficient and making sure you're not distracted when you do a task. Because if you try to multitask and you're not very good at multitasking, it'll end up taking longer than if you just focused and did things individually. I think learning like time management is very important, and it's not too difficult to like do a bunch of different activities if you learn how to manage your time efficiently.
What are some of the specific things that each of you did, if you want to share that
Oh
in
yeah, no,
terms
I,
of,
I, I
yeah.
agree with what Arun had to say. Like
Mm.
eventually, especially when it comes to junior year and you have like really classes and you still need to focus a lot on your ECs, it really comes down to time management and being efficient as possible. Like some things I did inside of my junior year was that like I was at school at lunch and whatnot. I would just finish all of my homework and whatnot in classes. And also I guess the amount of time I spent studying for tests, I would like make that like as least as possible. And like to determine how much time you need to study and whatnot, it changes for every single person. And that's why I want to go back to my point of like you kind of need to be adaptive inside of school, and that like there's some teachers that are going to be easier and some teachers that are going to be harder, and you just gotta I guess appoint your time correctly to I guess study sufficiently so that you get a good enough grade, but you don't overstudy, right? Because then once you don't overstudy, then you have a lot of time. Like for me, I was doing swim outside, and then I also was doing I was doing a lot of practice problems for math and physics, and I guess at the end of the day, I was still sleeping at like 2 or 3 a.m. every single day. But I think it's still really possible to like sleep at an earlier time, like maybe 11 p.m., 12 a.m., and still be able to do all of these ECs. But yeah.
I think like self-discipline is really really hard to develop because it just feels like one of those things that like you should get up and do. But I think one thing that like really helped me when I was especially in junior year, this is when I started doing it, is holding myself accountable through like scheduling things with friends. So for example, before every single like calculus test, I would text like some of my friends being like, or we had a group chat where we'd be like, guys, okay, can we meet at like 6 p.m. today so we can all go over like all the concepts? And then we would like pull up practice problems and then we would like review the concepts before like the final, for example, to make sure like, all of us understand the content and like where like one person was lacking, the other person, like other people who might like understand that content better can like end up like explaining it to them. Of course, like there's also the risk of like all of you guys being unproductive, which definitely happens sometimes. But I think like as long as you guys are like all of you guys are committed to holding each other accountable for making sure you guys are like doing the things that you need to do. I think studying with friends, either like online or like this year with college applications, I would go because I have a driver's license now. I could go like out to a coffee shop, for example, and be like, guys, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna write like finish one supplemental today. And then while you guys are all there, the pressure of everybody else also doing their work kind of keeps you in line and making sure you're not like goofing off on your phone.
Thank you, Alice. Let's move on to what's the parents' role in your high school journey? Let- Just switching gears. What do you like and dislike about your parents' behavior? Who wants to go?
I think that obviously parents have like that classic like mi mindset that you have to get good grades, and while that is true, you have to like balance it out with like everything that you have going on in your life. And I think um at least in my case, my parents were like, you don't have to take the hardest classes at Mission, but you have to do well in them. And so that's something that I kind of kept in mind over the course of 4 years. Um, and also, since I think in my case, my parents were very supportive of every decision that I made, especially with like West Point, like you have to have parent support and everything. And so I think I was blessed that way.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for my parents as well. They did, show me like, oh, maybe you could be interested in this, maybe you could be interested in that, but they weren't super adamant. And in terms of school, they were just happy with, seeing me put my best foot forward. I think to the point that they haven't checked my grades since middle school. So I think they're like, it's nice if they're, guiding you and supporting you emotionally, but um, I think probably there can be a point where it's like, you don't want them like taking control. And so I'm very grateful for my parents in that way.
Good. Thank you. What mistakes do parents make, especially in freshman year, or things that you do not like, if you want to share that? Or maybe it could be more like a, gotcha for wha- parents who are incoming, right? Especially eighth, ninth, 10th graders. What would you tell them not to do with their kids?
I think the biggest thing is don't try to force your kid into a field that you are doing or a field that you like that they might not like or a field that you don't know about because I think a lot of parents they want their kids they have a certain idea of what fields are like prestigious and what aren't, and it could be a very dated idea, especially if it's from a different context. So if your kid has an interest that you don't understand, that's fine. You're not going to understand half of what your kid says. That's all right. I think just I'm not gonna say be blindly supportive. Like if your kid's interest is to be a TikToker, then yeah, you gotta step in. But if your kid has like a legitimate interest and you just don't understand it, try to see what they're doing. And if you can see that your kid knows what they're doing, then kind of just like support them, let them do what they want, and make sure that they're actually able to achieve in that while they're doing the field that they like, they're still like achieving in that field. If they're saying, "Oh, I want to do this field," but they're not doing anything towards that, then push them towards doing more in the field and find opportunities for them. Because honestly, it's easier to find opportunities when you're a parent than if you're like a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, I think the most important thing parents have to keep in mind is that like I mean, they're new to parenting and they're also new to this experience as well, but so are the kids, right? So it's like it's a new experience for both sides. And the most important thing you need to like, I guess, recognize is that uh you can't be too controlling of it. Like you kind of need to let your kid explore what they want to explore and whatnot, right? Because that allows them to grow, that allows them to find what they're passionate about, and that allows them to like create their own motivation to like study and whatnot. Because if you're too forceful at the beginning and whatnot, maybe it'll work, they'll get good grades, but eventually they're going to burn out without their own intrinsic motivation or like passion to do stuff. So yeah.
I think like flipping that advice on its like head or like going back to the last question about like what have your parents done for you? I think it's like really important also to like so what someone said earlier. I forgot who. I'm so sorry. But like you said, like your parents are also like you're not your enemies. You know, I think it's really important to consider like also like as a like older sibling, like this is the like this is the first time my parents have been going through this like college admissions process as well, and like just like how we get a lot of our information from our peers. I'm sure like my parents were also getting a lot of like fear mongering information from like their peers or like other parents who are also going like, oh, if you don't do this, it's like over. But I think like what it was very important for me to understand and like especially when I was like going through high school is that like a lot of what my parents like what I thought was annoying like or my parents like checking up on me, it just like really comes out of a place of concern. Like even when my parents are being like, oh, like why do you have like a B in math or something like that, it's really because like they want to know if there's something going on in my life, and it's because it comes from a place of like how can we support our kid to make sure that she can like achieve what she can like the max that she can, if that makes sense. So like I thought it was really annoying at the time, like why are you always micromanaging me, but it really does come from a place of concern or like, oh, is there anything that I can do to help like Alice succeed? Can I get her like, or is do you need tutors, or like do you need like this other thing? And I think like for my parents, I've been very lucky to see like it's always come from a place of effort. I will admit, like in freshman and sophomore year, when I did have like B's in math, I was not the most. I did not put like my full effort into studying. But I think like once in junior year, they saw the fact that I was always like at home, I was always doing homework or calling my friends to like study for tests. They kind of backed off, being like, okay, it's okay if she gets like a B or like not an A or like something like that, because at least we know, or like we can see that she's trying her hardest to like study for the test and like to do excel in the classes that she's chosen to take.
Thank you. I think that comes to the other question on tutors, right? Did you have any private tutors? If anybody wants to talk about that, or something, other aids other than what you got in school, other than preparation, and or maybe even you can talk about yourself. What other additional tools you used? Who wants
Um,
to?
Um,
Go
go for it.
I can only speak really on the STEM side of
ahead.
things, I guess, because I tried Yusaku, I did C, and also did F for F equals MA. I did classes with Huabin Tang competitions use. And there's also like specific textbooks that you might want to self see. I did my A-UPS textbooks. I did a lot of practice problems and some of the um that I attended summer. There's also the Alpha Star winter camp and whatnot. So I had like a private tutor for it.
Mhm.
And then for Yusaku, I think there's like X camp and there's also probably private tutors as well that you can explore. But yeah,
So you had tutors for the exams, the competitive exams, and not for the courses themselves.
yeah, there's no course for it really.
Oh,
There's just concepts. It's pretty general. Yeah.
okay. No, I think the question was for mission courses, classroom, and then having private tutors for that. If
For
anybody wants to
mission
talk about
specifically, for example, like when I first took chemistry, the summer before actually, I didn't really know how it would go. I was very strong at math, not so much with English, but chemistry was completely something different. I didn't know how I would perform in the class, like overall. And so I did get a tutor the summer before because I've noticed that I get more confident if I know the concepts beforehand. And I think that was a really big thing that helped me succeed in that class specifically. Like, I had a private tutor, so it was just one-on-one classes, for an hour every day over summer, and we would just go over every single concept. And when it came time to the class during the school year, I was very prepared, and I think I performed a lot better.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on. I never really used any tutors, but the biggest resource that a lot of people don't use is they don't like actually read these problems like textbooks. Like at least for the STEM courses I mentioned, the textbooks are usually very good, and you can learn from the textbook itself. And it should always be the first resource. And actually reading the textbook instead of just doing the examples and doing the practice problems will actually make things a lot easier. And as a last resort, like I don't condone using AI for like ChatGPT to help you like understand a concept. it is like there are ethical ways to do it where you just ask ChatGPT like to explain a concept if like as a last ditch effort if nothing else makes sense.
All right. Thank you. I think there are some specific questions. Shaina, what was your internship that had a capstone project? How did you find your internship?
Um, so this was my last summer. Oh, actually this summer into my senior year. Um, it was uh it was an internship that I did. I found through one of my uncles. He I guess one of the people he worked with worked at this company, and so that's how I did it. My capstone project was an AI model that I kind of worked and like
Mhm.
created in a way. And so yeah, I don't think I can specify the company, but yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Then, for somebody interested in biosciences, how important is 4 years of studying a foreign language?
I
I think,
mean,
yeah.
sorry.
I mean, the question is, do you have to take 4 years of language?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if you have to take 4 years of language. Like, I only did three, and I was like, I turned out okay. I would
Okay.
say like, there's no real advantage to taking four unless you genuinely enjoy the language and like you're super involved. Like, why would you like you could have taken a if you don't enjoy learning the language, why would you take an extra year when you could have taken a class that you actually enjoyed that would have been like towards your major or something? Like, if you don't enjoy it, then there's really no reason to do it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. I don't know. There was some question about the app. I don't know what was the app. I'm not sure in what context it was asked. Maybe we'll come back to that. Yeah, dual enrollment. I think we should touch upon that. How useful were early college programs at Oloni? And can somebody talk about dual enrollment courses that you took?
I do want to say I think taking courses through Aloni, like even over summer and stuff, is something that I did, and I thought it was very, like I think it was really good because you can kind of get out of some, you can get credit for it when you go to college, and so I think it's really useful, and it's definitely something you should look into if, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with China. Early college and dual enrollment are kind of more guaranteed ways of securing credit for when you go to college. And that makes a lot of difference, not only in terms of like the money you're spending on college, but let's say you're going to a system like UC's where registration is based on how many credits you have. It sure is nice to have a earlier registration slot because you took a few classes, either dual enrollment or early college.
Got it. Cool. Are there tutoring, peer mentoring, or academic support programs? I believe this question is in the context of in school itself. Are there any additional support programs? I believe there's something called Target Success,
Yeah. Yeah,
peer
there is
resource. Can you talk
two of
about
them. There's like
it?
two of them, and then essentially they just have like um assign your private tutors and whatnot. I remember I was a tutor for one. Yeah, you can just sign up for it and then they'll assign tutors for you to help
Sorry, you were cutting out, Kevin.
you. Oh, wait, is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was saying I was one of the tutors before, and essentially what they do is there's like a Google form, just fill
Mhm.
it out if you need help with a specific class, and these clubs will help assign a tutor for you and they'll help you out. Simple, honestly.
Okay. So you tutored a class for younger class, like you were.
Oh, I know. I just tutored like two students on I think it was like pre-calc or something. Yeah.
Okay. And you had taken the course previously, or you
Yeah, I
were
take it. Yeah, you need to take the course. Yeah, the people that tutor are qualified.
qualified? Okay. And this is through the Mission San Jose's peer resource,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Peer,
Mhm.
the program's called peer resource or peer mentoring, and then they match you with the student tutor, right? Students are matched for with other students.
I also think there's specific clubs and stuff. For example, if there's a club for that specific subject, they also hold study sessions. And I think in that there's a lot of students who kind of know the subject really well, and you can ask people for help there.
Cool. Thank you. Then moving on, which extracurricular activities best prepares for a future in law or public service?
I would say the best extracurriculars for law is probably mock trial, but then another thing I want to mention, because I saw a lot of questions about law from a freshman parent.
Mhm.
Law school admissions is after you get into college. So when you go to college, you're going to be doing something that you're not going to be majoring in law. You'll be majoring in something like political science or economics or government or even history. So or even international relations. There's all kinds of pre-law majors you do. So I think as a freshman in high school, rather than just looking at law, you should be looking at what major you want to do before you go to law. You should look at your pre-law major because that's what you'll be applying for in 3 years, not law itself. So aside from just mock trial, you should look at you should look at what side of law you're very interested in. Are you more interested in like constitutional law, which is more of a history interest, or like corporate law, which is more like or like economics? There's lots of different types of law. There's lots of different pre-law majors, and I think as a freshman in high school, your focus should be to figure out what is your like general interest area, not specifically, oh, I'm going to go to Harvard Law in 8 years.
And I think like also adding on to that, I think like what you should also be focusing on in high school, and this goes for like everybody, is kind of developing or like joining clubs that will help you develop the skills that you'll need for the future. So for example, if you're planning on going into law, you probably want to have some sort of extracurricular that helps you develop like your speaking or your writing abilities, right? And so for that, I guess like for speaking wise, you can join like Model UN or like speech and debate or something like that, where you kind of are put in this like you learn how to like impromptu speak or learn how to make convincing arguments. Though I will say, mock trial is pretty like a pretty good like basic EC for everybody who wants to do law. But I think there are not that many seniors leaving this year, and mock trial does hold auditions every at the beginning of every single year because there's only a set number of spots that the team will hold because like there are only like roles for each competition. So you also want to start like preparing those skills before the audition because I'm not sure how competitive it will be next year.
Thank you. What are the roles school counselors play in your journey through high school and into college? So this is the high school counselors.
Sorry, real quick, Anusha, this should be our last question because we're
Okay.
coming up at almost 8 p.m. So if we want to
Okay.
do rapid fire.
Sounds good. High school counselors, anyone?
Personally, I didn't reach out to my like last name based counselor who does the counselors for me mainly did like college related stuff. Like they have to do a letter of rec. That's just a requirement for a lot of schools. I did really talk to the college and career counselor, Miss Yvonne. So if you're interested in like hands-on stuff, if you ever have any questions about college, early college, all that, she's super helpful. I've gotten a lot of help. I definitely recommend reaching out to her.
All right. So this is the Mission San Jose's College and Career Center, right? In Miss Yvonne. So this
Correct,
is the
yeah.
school program. Yeah. And she holds a number of events as well.
I also
College
think
and
that
events.
in school itself, people don't really realize, but I think the counselors like Miss Rotter and Mr. Sharma, like they are very useful. They write like letters of recommendation for every single student who's applying to college. So I think they're a very good resource for you to reach out to them. And also, I didn't realize it that early, but in my junior year, I started getting closer to some of my counselors because at the end of the day, they do write you a letter of recommendation, and so that does play a role in your college application process.
Shilpa, do you want to take? I think there are a couple more questions. Maybe the one on Health Zero. How did you do Health Zero, Arvind? You said that was outside the school, right?
Oh yeah. I got to do Health Zero period because I was in the orchestra freshman year. If you want to do orchestra and the language, the school lets you defer health, and
Mhm.
as an incentive to encourage people to join orchestra, they let you take health as a zero period. So I took it my junior year as a zero period.
Got it. And is that still available for those wanting to take orchestra?
Yeah, it should still be
Oh,
available.
all right, cool.
That is at school, right, Armin?
That's cool.
Yes, it was at school. It was in Mr. Rubling's room. It was just a zero period.
Okay, cool.
Should we move on to rapid fire?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the last section of the webinar. Basically, it's going to be a series of rapid fire questions that all the panelists will answer as quick as possible. Okay. And I won't call out each panelist, so just so everyone remembers, all of you remember the order in which you answered. It's Roland, Alice, Ashwin, Ghanem, Arvind, Kevin, and China. So, question number one, if you could change one thing in your MSJ high school journey, what would it be?
I think at the start it was like this feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, and you really need to shed that quick, and just really do things that you're interested in, not be scared about what other people think.
I would add on to that, as in like whenever I got like for example like I felt like a very like intense feeling of shame whenever I got like a for example like a bad test grade. But I think in junior year again, like when I got over that, I was able to like ask my friends for help or like find this like community and find out that like people at Mission, like including the teachers and the students, are really dedicated to helping you succeed. And I think like once that only you can only find that after you get over your initial fear of failure.
I'm gonna give a slightly different answer. I'm gonna say the thing I would have changed the most at admission is I should have known when to give up and when not to give up. There are certain classes where I just kept soldiering on in those classes and kept getting B's in them, even though I didn't like them, I wasn't doing well in them, I didn't need them for my major. For example, I did English honors for 3 out of 4 years, and I mean, I don't think I would have changed that. I would have maybe dropped it after 10th grade. So some classes like that, I think I just tried tried fighting it for way too long, and it hurt my GPA, it hurt my confidence. So that's something I'd change.
For me, what I would personally change is I kind of going throughout my whole journey in high school. I feel like I should have tried a lot harder in a lot of my classes to kind of up my grades.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing I would have changed is I would have done more in my summers. I feel like after every year, I was just kind of like relaxing over the summer, and I do recognize that that's important, but I feel like I could have done more, like at least one program like every year or something.
Yeah.
Um, ooh,
I would have spent more time doing stuff that I was passionate about because I think I was passionate about math and like I was passionate about applying it, but then doing a lot of competitions when not kind of.
I would say take the SAT early. I took it towards like, or my best score was towards the end of my junior year. I think that was really late because you kind of stress yourself out throughout the entirety of your junior year when your grades are the most important. So take it early.
Great. Next question. What is your GPA, if you're willing to share it, and or how many B's and C's did you get?
4.0.
I have an overall 3.96 and I got two B's in second semester freshman and sophomore year math.
3.64, too many B's to count. I think, I don't know, it's like 4.05 weighted.
Uh, to be honest, I had a pretty low GPA all throughout high school, and my overall one I think is like around a 2.5.
I had
Arvind?
a 4.0.
Kevin?
To be inside digital imaging and
China?
I had a 3.83. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Hardest class you took at MSJ?
M honors.
Chem honors, but I dropped the class within the first 2 weeks, so I guess I would say AP Calc BC.
AP Calculus and AP Chemistry, probably both those were my hardest classes.
For me would be anatomy and physiology. There was a lot of memorizing going on in there.
I would say hands down it's Calc BC.
chem honors.
I'd say AP Physics 1, but that's also only because I don't like the subject.
Favorite teacher or mentor shout out?
Maestro Magana, super passionate, super fun, always down to talk.
I think either Miss Rusu, who was Calc BC, or Teacher La Rosa, who was my 9H and 11H English teacher. I would also give a shout out to Teacher Lo, who was my journalism advisor.
Miss Saldivar, who was my pre-calc honors teacher in 11th grade, but also more importantly was my civics club advisor. She's one of the best teachers I've had. She's also one of the most fun. To this day, I sometimes just go to her class and talk to her for like an hour after school.
My overall teacher and mentor for my favorite would be at ROP, Lieutenant Sandoval. And then at Mission, it would be Miss Rubling. Definitely, I hang out in her class a lot and talk to her a lot.
I would say it's Miss Sultana from AP Bio. She was really supportive and she handles a lot of the biology club things.
Surusu.
I'd say Miss Kang and Mr. Jan are the nicest, like coolest teachers, but unpopular opinion, I think Mr. Umit's super funny.
Okay, what feedback would you give to the teachers at MSG?
I think feedback is usually criticism or taken as criticism, so I just like do the other way around. Like just like thank you for like we really appreciate you just being down to talk and help us through stuff.
Yeah, I think I would say like one thing for my teachers is to not to rely too heavily on your students like self-studying your classes. So like for example, like there have been a lot of teachers who've given up lecturing, for example, because they thought no one was listening. But in reality, that just kind of forces everybody to have to like find outside resources to try and pass their class.
I think a lot of teachers get very carried, like they're very passionate about their subject and get very carried away with it, and they can't forget that we have six classes and not just one class to take. And so a lot of teachers think that like they give a lot of homework or they give tests like very rapidly without realizing that we might have other tests and a lot of other homework that same day.
Yeah, I heavily agree with Alice on some teachers just completely giving up on lecturing. And I would like pay attention and kind of take notes during those. And then when they stopped, it's kind of left on to you to do the rest. And yeah, no, I wasn't the best when it came to that. So
I would say one of the most annoying things was when they didn't follow the FUSD testing guidelines. Most teachers will follow them, but some teachers don't, and it gets really, really bad when you have multiple tests of subjects that aren't supposed to be on the same day.
I'd say um the atmosphere like more enjoyable. Some of the classes are too strict, but I feel like everyone just learns better.
I sort of agree with Arvin. I think having four tests in one day is really not fun, especially for the night before when you're cramming things. So, having tests on your assigned days is really helpful.
Okay, what is one piece of advice you would give to students still at MSJ?
I'd say definitely reach out. You're not gonna get help for things that you don't ask about, and there are so many resources at Mission that you probably don't even know about.
Like try to make the most of it. I know mission is like not everyone's favorite environment or like an environment where everyone can thrive, but I would say like this is like only 4 years and like the only way out is through. So just try to enjoy your time like the best you can while you're here.
Honestly, chill. I mean, college apps is gonna be hard. Junior is gonna be hard. Things are gonna be hard at Mission. It's a tough school. You go take a lot of AP classes. It's gonna be a tough time. So just chill. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna get through it. You'll get come out the end of it with a pretty good admit, most likely. Uh, and I think don't overstress about the stress itself. Don't give yourself stress thinking about how stressed you're gonna be. That's like the worst part, kind of stress you can have.
I would say if you're a student that already kind of knows what career path you want to go along, take an ROP class on whatever that career path is, because you can get your foot in the door and get in that career before you even graduate.
I would say biggest thing is to like enjoy the things that you do. Like don't just do things that you think will help you if you don't enjoy them, because you're just gonna get burnt out.
I would say the same thing as Arvin. Just like do what you want to do and don't like be, I guess, pressured into going into a path you don't like. For example, like if you're like doing writing or whatnot, you don't need to do too much STEM.
I kind of stand on this, like I said before, it's more important to take easier classes and succeed in them and like get good grades than take harder ones and risk getting like a C or a D.
Thanks. Last question. Your favorite MSJ High memory?
Homecoming performances. I did all four of them. Please do it. It's the most school spirit you'll get, most fun that you'll get out of a school event.
Well, I would say like everything to do with my clubs. Like for Model UN, it's like maybe this is cheating because this is like four memories, but it's like eating together at like over like debriefing over about committee over lunch. There's like mock trial BART rides. There's like smoke signal bagel eating sessions, and like hanging out with my friends outside of school.
I'd agree with Alice. Clubs are a very big part for me. History Bowl, I'm also going to cheat a little bit. I think just History Bowl competitions, History Bowl practices every week at my house. Just History Bowl in general, I really like those guys. And they just won third place. Hopkins just won third place today in their category. And so, yeah, I really like the team. I've been able to coach for 2 years, and I can't wait to see how they do in the next few years.
My favorite memory was probably freshman year health class. I don't know, just the teacher, Miss Rubling. She was a lot of fun to be around, really nice teacher to have. And I guess just I had a lot of friends in that class, and it was a really fun time.
I would say probably the senior water world trip this year, or probably like being with the club all 4 years and then seeing them like finally achieve something, or like just sticking with the club for all 4 years.
For me, it was going to the boys basketball games for NCS. It was a generational run, and it was really exciting to watch them play.
I think I'd say basketball. It's the people that you meet through sports that stay with you for a lifetime. I met one of my best friends there and I love her.
Thank you, panelists. That concludes our rapid fire question round. Back to you, Anusha.
All right, thanks everyone. And that concludes our webinar. So, if you don't mind, I do want to launch this feedback before you drop off. I know there were some drop offs. So, please answer just 3 questions. That would really help us shape this webinar. As you know, this is the 4th year and we're continuously improving. This will be for the future of MSJ Reflections and what this should be, what this would be in the coming years, and what would you like to see more of. Thank you so much to the panelists for taking time. I know it's almost more than an hour and a half. We estimated an hour and a half, and it's more than that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shilpa. And thanks, everyone. I'll send out the poll again as well.
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. You guys are seniors, you're graduating. You needn't have done this, and you took time out to do this on a long weekend. So really appreciate it.
All right. That's it. Thanks, all. Thank you.